Little baby David was born into a very happy family. His parents were delighted. Olivia and Ewan, it was their first child, and when they got home from hospital, they were all in a panic, but also so happy. And when the doorbell rang, Ewan ran downstairs expecting to see his parents. When he opened the door, there was a stranger dressed in a long blue cloak, the colour of the sky, and she had a hood up so he could not see her face. "Hello," said Ewan. "Good day, Ewan. You have a newborn son." "Yes, he is a very special boy, and I have a gift for him." And from under her cloak, she brought out something in her hand, and she handed it to Ewan. And Ewan looked down, and it was a star, a silver star, beautifully intricate. And he was quite overcome, and he looked up and she was gone. He looked down the street, but no sign of her. Very strange, he thought, and he closed the door and ran back up the stairs to Olivia. She was nursing David in the bed. "What was that?" I don't know," said Ewan. "I was given this." And he showed her the star. "Oh," said Olivia, and her eyes went wide. "My granny had one of them." "Really?" "Yes. It was from a fairy when she was born." "Oh," said Ewan, and what's it for?" "Well, it means that our son is special." "Well, we knew that already," said Ewan. "Yes, but it means that he'll be able to understand every creature in this world. He'll know their speech." "Really?" "Yes. We have to make sure that it's on his person the whole time. He must never be without it." "Oh, all right. Well, let's put it in his cot." So from that day on, little baby David had that silver star beside him the whole time. And as he got a bit bigger, his mum made little pockets on all his clothing so that it could be on his person wherever he went. And as he crawled around and as he started walking, every now and again when he was outside, he would stop and he would listen. And a big smile would come over his face because he was hearing things his parents couldn't. He began to understand all the birds and insects, but his favourite thing to do was to put his ear to the ground and listen to the worms chirtling, or maybe the slaters under the rocks. Well, as he got bigger, he would spend more and more time on his own, listening to all the animals and the birds. And he would always have his hand in his pocket, touching the beautiful little star. When he was about 7, he asked if he could go down the river. He was very, very sensible, and his mum let him go down by himself. He went and sat on one of his favourite places on a rocky bank and just listened. The water was flowing by. Oh, what was that? And he looked up in the tree, and it was a goldfinch crying. "Goldie, what's wrong?" said David. And the bird called out, "My claws are stuck on the branch. I can't get away." "Oh no," said David, and he tried to climb up the tree, but he couldn't manage. He said, "I'm away home. I'll get Dad to come." And he ran home, and Dad was working in the garage, and he got his dad to bring the ladder down. His dad climbed up, he brought a saw, and he cut off the branch that the bird was on. And they took the branch back to the house. David's father was a vet and managed to loosen off the claws from the branch, and then cleaned them up, and then gently put the goldfinch back in David's hands. "There you go, little birdie." David took the Goldie back down to the river And off flew Goldie. And then he flew back and said, David, listen, if there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know. I will, said David, smiling, thinking, when am I ever going to need a goldfinch's help? It was a few weeks later. David headed out one early Saturday morning. It was a lovely sunny day. He was walking along, just listening, when his eye was caught by something in the river. And he looked closer and he realised it was an otter. Otter, he called. Are you okay? The otter's head whipped round. David, please help. Well, David scrambled down the bank and, not even thinking about his clothing, he waded into the river. It wasn't deep there. And he came to the rock. Otter was completely snarled up in a fishing line. Oh, Otter! David carefully lifted Otter up, wet, heavy and quite smelly, and held him against his chest and took him back to the bank. He got out his multi-tool he got for his last birthday, and he began to start snipping the fishing line all from around the otter. It took a long time. Some of the line had cut through into Otter's back leg, but eventually David managed to get the creature free. David, thank you. I don't know what I'd have done without you. Anything I can ever do for you for what you've done for me today. And off went Otter, sleek, into the water. David spent the rest of that morning looking for that fishing line. It was upsetting to find things like that would hurt the creatures. The next day he decided he'd try and go out again. But this time he heard dogs barking and snarling and snapping. And he came across two of them. And they had something and they were tearing at it. Now, David's speech was for every creature. So David shouted out, "Dogs, go! Leave it alone!" And the dogs immediately turned tail and ran, leaving behind a poor little bird. And it was lying very still, covered in blood. David darted over and felt the wee thing. It was still warm and he could feel her heart beating, but oh, the wing was torn to bits. It was a wee water bird, a dipper. He lifted it up in his hands and he ran home as fast as he could. And Dad had just finished work. Dad, look! Oh my goodness! In the car, come on down to the hospital. Sometime later, Dad came out. He was very solemn. Is it dead? No, it's not dead, but I don't know if she's going to live, David. But we'll take her home and take great care of her, and we'll do our best, eh? David nodded. Well, within a few days, she was starting to flex her wee wing. Now, dippers, it's very important that their wings are strong because they fly under the water to get their food off the stones. So David and Ewan took off the bandages, and right enough, the wing was starting to work properly. You're going to be okay, little bird. Thank you, said the dipper. I really want to go back to the river. Once you're ready, we'll take you back. Well, that day came, and the dipper flew off from David's hand as if she hadn't had a broken wing at all. And then she immediately flew back and landed on his shoulder. David, thank you so much. If you ever need my help, I'm here. Oh, thanks, Dipper, said David, thinking to himself, when am I ever going to need a dipper's help? Then she flew off, and soon she was starting to feed under the rocks. David was very popular at school because if there were any birds passing over, he would very quietly speak to them, and they would come down and land on his shoulder. And the children could then look at the birds and listen to them singing, and the birds weren't scared when they were with David. But there was one boy who always stood back. He was jealous and he wanted what David had. And he wondered, how did David have this power over creatures? David had kept his star a secret from all but his best friend. Well, this boy watched and watched, and he saw that David had his hand in his pocket a lot. One day, David woke up. It was a beautiful Saturday morning, and he got down to the river as fast as he could. But as he walked, he thought there was something wrong, and he couldn't quite figure out what it was. He could hear the birds singing, but he couldn't hear anything talking. He listened harder, but no. He knelt down on the ground to see if he could hear the worms. Nothing. And he put his hand in his pocket. The star was gone. He put his hand in his other pocket, and he searched every pocket, and he took off his backpack, but there was nothing there. Well, he ran home and up to his room, and he checked under his bed, he checked everywhere, and there were tears beginning to form. He felt like he'd lost a part of himself, and then he was thinking, I was down the river after school yesterday, so he went to that part of the river. Nothing. He threw himself down on the riverbank and began to cry his heart out. He'd lost his star. Goldie was flying over. Oi, David, what's going on? But all David could hear was Goldfinch's call. Goldie, I can't understand you. Well, Goldie came and landed on his shoulder. Goldie could fortunately still understand him. I've lost my star, Goldie. Well, I'm sure I can do something about that. I'll get the other birds on the case. And off Goldie flew. And he told the blackbird. And the blackbird told the wren. And the wren told the robin. And the robin went, oh, I think I know where it is. The previous day, the boy who'd stolen the star had popped it in his pocket and expected magic things to happen. But nothing had. For the gift had been given to David, nobody else. And the boy took the star out of his pocket, and although it was a bonny looking thing, he thought, I'm not keeping this and I'm not giving it back. And he threw it under a bush. And that's where Jackdaw had found it. And Jackdaw really liked shiny things and had taken it up to his nest in the chimney. And that's what Robin had seen. Robin did not want to speak to Jackdaw because Jackdaw was quite a bit bigger than Robin. But Robin spoke to Crow. Crow, I know where David's star is. And Crow says, right, I'll head to Jackdaw and I'll get it back. So Crow flew up to the roof. Hey, Jackdaw. Aye, who's speaking? It's me, Crow. I believe you have something that doesn't belong to you. What do you mean? David's star. I found it. Aye, but it's his and he needs it back. No, it's mine. Bring it out here right now. Well, Jackdaw did, but he flew off and Crow flapped after him. And Crow shouted out, give it back right now. And Jackdaw shouted back, no! And as he shouted that, Jackdaw opened his beak and the star fell out. Down, 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 down it went and sploosh into the river. Oh no, said Crow, landing on the bank. But two otters were coming up the river. Hey, otters, come over here, said Crow. Aye, what's going on? Said Otter. David's star, it's fallen in the river. Could you go and find it? We can try. So the otters started diving down. They hunted high and low, but could they find it? No. And as they were surfacing, there was Dipper. What's going on? Oh, David's star's fallen in the river. Dipper, maybe it's gone under a rock. Could you have a look? So the Dipper started looking, and right enough, there was a shiny thing just hiding under the rock. Dipper tried to reach it, but she couldn't quite manage it. "Otter's over here!" So the otter swam over, and they managed between them to prise it out from where it got stuck under the rock. And the otter and Dipper went to find David, and there he was, sitting beside the river, looking very glum. And Dipper shouted out, "David, David, we found a star!" Well, you should have seen David's face. He was delighted. Otter clambered up beside David and put it into David's hand. "Thank you so much," he said, and he clasped it to himself. "I'm never going to let the star out of my sight again." "Aye, you better not," said Otter. "Thank you. You have all helped me," he said, smiling. Well, David went home, and that very day he made a little tiny bag for it, and he put it round his neck so that he would always have it on his person. And do you know, that little silver star had other magic properties that David began to discover as he got older. But that is another story.